guys, so this week you are having to draw a feather, and I'm doing a tutorial on this video, but I wanted to do something a little bit different. So I'm going to use a different background. So last week I said that whatever drawing you do, make sure you do it on a plain background, so not lined and not gridded paper, but that doesn't mean that it has to be white. So what I've done is I've put watercolour all over a sheet of paper. Like I said, I've got my sketchbook, so I'm quite lucky, but you know, you might have a piece of wrapping paper that looks really good, or you might want to do it on an old envelope or something like that. Okay, so and this week I'm going to do a biro drawing, so switch it up a little bit. So for that I have got I'm still working in pencil to start off with so that I can rub it out. So I've got a pencil and a rubber, my trusty plate, and then just a writing pen, so it's a biro. These ones are, so they're the ones that you get from school, the like cheap ones. It's better to use this type of thing than a fine liner, just because you get better lines with it. So, yeah, the other thing to mention is I don't have a feather, because I don't live in a particularly countryside-y area, so it's really difficult for me to get my hands on it. So what I've done, I'm just going to turn you guys around. So I have got this, my laptop set up with a big picture, so I've actually I've copied it, oh crikey, how do I do this? So copied it onto a presentation just on the OneDrive, and then I've put it full screen, so using that little slideshow tab down there, and I've put it full screen. And I would recommend that you do your Google search. So if you're looking for pictures of the feather, then Miss Oldham has put lots of pictures and resources onto the PowerPoint. But if you want to find something, I would suggest that you Google drawing of a feather, because that will be much simpler to look at. It just makes your life quite a lot easier if you're drawing from a drawing rather than drawing from real life. Okay, all right, let's get started. So I just wanted to quickly show you before I start drawing what kind of technique I'm going to use. So I've got a pencil and a biro, so just a normal writing pen. Because this week we're drawing feathers, a lot of the time you want a really, really fine point on the end of your mark. So by that, I mean you can draw a line like that, and can you see how it's the same thickness at each side? Whereas if I do a flick, it's thicker at the bottom than it is at the top. So I'm just putting my pressure on and flicking out. Now that can be a really good way of, if you're doing, say, a peacock feather or something, so you've got like a line like that and then flicking out. So you'll get the curve of the feather and then flick out, okay? And it's just as easy to do with biro. So again, straight line, or you can do a curved line, but can you see how the thickness is the same the whole way through? Or you can flick, and it takes a bit of practice, to be honest. I use the same technique when I'm doing eyelashes on eyes. So you kind of curve it out, and I'm a bit weird. I can only curve in one direction. So I can only curve, hang on, which one's the way I do it? That way. So I'm much better at curving that way than I am at curving that way. So I quite often turn my page around so that I can always curve the same way. Just a tip, okay? But that flick, it just means that you get that really, really nice mark, okay? Which might help you with your feathers. It might make it look more realistic, okay? So to start off with, I used my pencil and I marked out the main shape and the main curve of the middle of the feather. Now I used quite a lot of lines to do this, so I take my rubber and I rub out the ones that I'm not using just to make it really, really easy for me. Then once I've got the main shape of the feather, I start putting in the general shape of where the little kind of feathery fronds are. So putting in an outline so that I've got something to follow when I then go back in with biro. If you spend a bit of time doing the shape now, that means that you're doing it in pencil and you can rub it out like I just got a bit wrong a couple of seconds back and rubbed it out. Then I started adding in the biro. Now the first thing I did was put lots of dark in the middle because that was the darkest bit of my picture. So I wanted that structure there to start off with. And once I'd done those dark bits, I started putting a few marks in. And I went about this drawing slightly differently to how I would normally do. So I kind of did it in a circle, which will make sense when you see what I'm doing. So I'm doing those flicks like I showed you in the video before to kind of start off dark in one section and get to a lighter area or a finer point in another section, just to add that detail onto the feather. This takes a little while, so I think this drawing took me about 20 minutes. But I'm a fairly fast drawer, so it might take you a little while. I'm constantly looking at my picture in front of me, so it was really helpful to have my computer screen in front of me with the picture on it. One of the things that I was really careful to do was look at the direction of the lines, because when you are drawing a feather, the directional shading, so the kind of shape of the line, gives shape to the feather. So you can see some lines I've curved outwards and some lines I've curved inwards, and they kind of meld together to create a shape. So at the moment, I'm putting the lines of the feathers in, and I've done some tone, but I've not done loads, because I'll add more once I've gone and around the whole shape and got it sorted. Here I used a rubber and it smudged my pen, and I've got to say I was glad that I didn't have the sound on, because I did say a naughty word. So, but I corrected it by just going over and making that bit slightly darker, so I don't think you can see the mistake, which is good. And then I use the same technique on the top of the feather as well. So most of the time on the bottom of the feather I was flicking out, so flicking from the middle outwards, but in my drawing of the feather, the top of the feather had darker bits on the edges, and then came into finer points towards the middle of the feather. So I changed the direction that I was doing my flicks there. There are sections on the top of the feather where the fronds had scrunched up together and caused quite a dark bit of tone, so I was really careful to be looking for those to make it the most realistic feather I possibly could. So that's why I keep going back into those top bits and adding a bit more dark. So once I'd finished the kind of general shape, I went back in and just added a little bit more tone, not loads, but just wanting to make both sides of the feather look like the same drawing, so making sure that my darkness and my lightness were the same ends of the tonal scale, and just making sure that I got it right. Then I went back in, rubbed out all the rest of my pencil lines, and finished there.